Imprisoned for 10,000 years. Banished from my own homeland. And now you dare enter my realm? You are not prepared. But that's why we're here, guys. TBC is just around the corner, and we might not be prepared. We don't know exactly what class to play. So you guys are going to pretend that this content has never been done before, and I'm going to pretend that it's new. And together we're going to figure out what we want to play for TBC Classic or whatever will shine, because this is a general overview of the phase 1 of TBC to see how classes are performing overall in the first phase. So with that being said, let's get right into it. I'm going to start with the warrior class, and I'm going to give it a B tier list. Why? Well, because simply warriors are not what they used to be in vanilla. They no longer benefit from world buffs. Early expansion, they do scale with gear. And to be honest, they do not offer as much as the other classes have to offer. Now, from Classic to TBC, we're swapping from a melee-oriented raid setup to a more like range spell-oriented setup. Warrior is going to be okay in arm spec. You're gonna play probably a sword spec. Then you're gonna have to get like blacksmith to get a Lionheart sword. There's going to be probably a couple of warrior slots per raid. I would assume it's going to be one tank, one arms warrior, and a potential fury warrior. But fury doesn't really bring anything to the table. At least the warrior breed brings the 4% damage debuff, and that could be useful. When it comes to tanking, we have other tanks now. Feral druids, paladins. So warrior, at least at the beginning of expansion, is doing quite sad. But towards the end, he's going to scale. But we're talking now about phase 1. In terms of other things you can do in the game, it's quite nice. You can do fine in arena and world PvP in general. A lot of 2v2 setups with druid, paladins, shamans, and 3v3 is doing fine as well. You're going to be able to hit gladiator if you want early phase 1. But until then, warriors are not going to be that desired in raids. Moving on to the next one, which is the mage. And the mage we're going to give an A tier. I wanted to give an S tier to the mage, especially in phase 1. Because phase 1 for mages is kind of interesting. You are going to be kind of wanting to play arcane, because arcane is slightly more powerful in phase 1. Due to the fights being short, you're going to be able to manage your mana. Especially if you have like a shadow priest in your group. We're going to talk about that later. And with addition of the new spell like spell steal and so on, you're going to be able to pump in specific boss fights such as Nether Spite a lot of damage. Fire is great too. Fire comes with an execute now, and when you're the mob is under 20%, you're gonna deal 35 more damage, 35% or something like that. And honestly, fire is gonna be more fun with the addition of new spell like Dragon's Breath and so on. Mages are going to do fine. They bring a lot of benefits to the raid table, refreshments. You're going to be able to tank and Gruul Slayer and so on. And on top of that, you're going to perform okay and gonna bring consistent damage to the raid and also some sort of support. In terms of PvP, world PvP, arenas, you're doing fine. Rogue mage in 2v2s or mage priest, rogue mage priest in 3v3s. You're gonna have a great time in TBC if you're playing a mage. Not S class though. We're gonna move next to the paladin, which paladin is kind of interesting here because if we compare the paladin with the classic paladin, paladin gets like huge buffs. So I'm going to drop the paladin in a B tier overall. The red spec is nice, specifically for 25 mans, because then you get more buffs and you get probably Wind Fury and so on. So you're going to perform okay in red. However, in 10-man raids, you're kind of slacking. But the paladin has one of the best tanking specs out there. You can do a lot of AoE tanking and you're going to be really good at it. And towards the end of expansion, you're going to get only better and better. Early on in phase 1, you can do a lot of PvP. As a Holy Pala, maybe with a warrior, maybe as red with some other setup. But in terms of raid, it's kind of much better than it used to be in vanilla, but not quite there on par with the other classes. So I'm giving it somewhere in the middle, a B tier. Moving on to the Warlock. And Warlock is probably one of the best classes in TBC. I think as a Warlock, even in phase 1, you can start like playing any spec that you want. Destruction is going to shine, Demonology is going to shine, and even Affliction is going to be probably right there in A tier. Not only because you bring a lot of support with Master Health Stones and Soul Stones, now you have an AoE spell, Seed of Corruption. And that AoE spells is one of the strongest AoE spells in game. So overall, single target great damage, multi-target great damage, and in PvP, you're going to be a beast as well. There are great 2v2s combo like with the rest of Druid in 2v2, some combinations with Priests and Mages in 3v3s. And overall, for the entire of the expansion, I think class is going to shine. Not only that they have great sets like tier 5, tier 6, but as they get more gear, they only become stronger and stronger. So, a lot of support with summoning, soul stones, and health stones. Great damage. They bring a couple of debuffs, and they help other casters. Fire mages as well in destruction. Affliction brings like elemental 3% damage increase. Just overall a great class to have in a raid. Moving on to the Shaman. In Shaman, I really wanted to give an S rank, but I'm going to give it an A rank. And compared to Vanilla as well, Shamans are going to be good in all 3 roles. Now, you're going to have to get about minimum 5 Shamans in a raid, and most raids will try to do that. So you have great support, you get Bloodlust, Heroism, you bring totems, you bring like lots of damage with the Elemental. Elemental has been redesigned a lot. Now you have a lot of hit from it. If you're playing a Draenei, you have hit from your racials as well. It's just gonna be good in every party you put it, basically. So guilds are going to try to get for every 25-man raids at least 5 Shamans. Now, it doesn't matter if you play Elemental, Healer, or Enhancement. Just great class overall. Moving on to the Druid, I'm going to give him a C tier, but only if we're talking about DPS. I'm talking about Feral and Balance. Although they get a significant buff and new spells and abilities, and they do quite well, they're not quite on par with the Rogues and the Warriors in terms of DPS. They're gonna do like less. If in Classic it was about 30% or 40% less DPS compared to those classes, here it's gonna be like only like 10% less DPS. However, if we talk about tanking, Druid bumps up one spot because he's one great tank. He's gonna do the most single target damage. He's gonna have the most armor, and he's gonna be needed, especially for the melee group and so on. Brings leader of the pack, and it's gonna be great. And then if we're talking about PvP as well, but I want to stay a bit away from PvP from this tier list, we can bump him up even one bracket, because in PvP, Druids are just like, in Arena specifically, Kiters. They bring Hurricane. They're just great crowd control, and they have high abilities to survive. So we're gonna give it for now a B tier. Moving on to the Hunter, which is going to be probably the class that I'm going to play. We're gonna put it in S tier, and Hunter is the new warrior. A lot of warriors that played in Vanilla are going to reroll to Hunters. They're greatest single target DPS, and not only for phase 1, for the entirety of the expansion. They have great abilities. The pets scale now. They have kill command, and they have steady shot with the macro. Just the Hunter class is totally redesigned. Not only that, they bring benefits with Ferocious Inspiration and so on, extra buffs to the raid. And I think they stack, if I remember correctly. The new pets, the Ravagers, are doing great. And if you get early on the 4 pieces of Beast Lore set, which is going to be your base, you're going to ignore opponent's armor. You're just going to top the meters no matter where you are. Kara, Gruuls, Mecteridons, you're just going to outperform and outshine everyone if you're playing the class correctly, of course. When it comes to other aspects of the game, Hunters are great too. They're going to be great farmers, grinders. If you plan to grind gold, you're probably going to be able to solo a lot of things, that too. And in PvP, it's a hit and miss. Hunters are easy to play, but when it comes to Arena, there's a high ceiling. Nevertheless, it's quite a fun class to play, and Hunter is the new warrior of TBC. Moving on to the Rogue class, we're going to put it on C tier list. And Rogues are in the same situation with Warriors, or at least a similar one. Early on, they're going to be really requiring a lot of gear to be able to pump that damage. And not only that, whenever you bring a Rogue to the raid, he doesn't bring a lot of things. He doesn't have strong AoE DPS. And although he has a nice burst with adrenaline rush and so on, it's not going to be sustainable. So people are going to be less prone to bring rogues in the raid early on. But with that being said, rogue is quite a great class for TBC, especially if you're PvPing outdoor content. Shadow Step, Cloak of Shadows is just going to be a great class overall. So don't get influenced in choosing any of the classes that we talked about until now just because of the phase 1, because later on rogues are going to evolve. Once they get the gear, once they get the Black Temple gear, they get their glaives and so on, they're just going to go all the way to the top and be kings again like they used to be in vanilla. Kings is probably a lot said, but still. Don't be shy on playing a rogue if you want to do it. It's still a nice class. There are going to be great farms to do in dungeons like mana tombs and so on. And overall gameplay, it's quite awesome. And moving on to the last class, the Priest. Priest is going to be probably a B tier when it comes to DPS. DPS is going to be a bit behind compared to the other casters. But if we talk about overall Priest for phase 1 and for the entirety of TBC, Priest is definitely an A class. One of the best healers in TBC, one of the best PvP class, like Discipline Priest in Arena and so on. Even if we talk about the benefits that he brings to raid as a Shadow Fiend, Vampiric Embrace and so on, they're called mana batteries for something. Arcane mages are going to need them, and a lot of casters to sustain. You can bring all the way 2 DPS priests to a raid and multiple healing priests. So I don't think it's an issue with priest all across TBC. It's a great class, but I just don't want to give it an A tier, so we're gonna keep it on B tier. So these are the classes, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. This is a personal view. It might be different for everyone playing. Maybe you don't agree with something. Feel free to tell me in the comments. Let me know what you're going to play in TBC and why did you choose that. For me, it's going to be simple. I'm going to play a Hunter, a Mage, and a Paladin. Those are my 3 picks for TBC. And probably I'm going to stay there. I'm gonna level my Rogue as well too, because I already have him to level 60. So it's not a big deal. Thank you very much for watching. Have a lovely rest of the day. And until next time, stay frosty. Bye-bye.